The Streets of San Francisco from 1972 has often been remembered as a procedural crime series anchored by realism, but when viewed through the thematic lens suggested by the title The Thrill Killers, the show reveals a far deeper meditation on violence, urban psychology, and the subtle seduction of power that crime can exert not only on perpetrators, but also on institutions and audiences themselves. What distinguishes this series from other crime dramas of its era is not simply its use of real locations or its restrained performances, but its quiet insistence that crime is rarely theatrical in intention, even when it becomes dramatic in consequence. Each scene is constructed with an almost documentary patience, allowing tension to arise not from sensational acts, but from the accumulation of small choices, glances, and silences, particularly in the way Inspector Mike Stone navigates conversations with suspects and witnesses. The opening sequences often situate the viewer within the ordinary rhythms of San Francisco life: cable cars, crowded sidewalks, modest apartments, before violence intrudes not as a spectacle but as a disruption, and this contrast establishes one of the show's most enduring themes. That thrill is not always loud or flamboyant, but can exist in control, secrecy, and transgression. The title, The Thrill Killers, when applied retrospectively, does not describe flamboyant villains, but rather a psychological condition, the subtle intoxication that comes from crossing invisible boundaries without immediate consequence. Stone's investigative method reflects an awareness of this condition, as he resists dramatizing suspects, often refusing to elevate them through confrontation, choosing instead to let their need for recognition reveal itself organically. One particularly striking pattern across episodes is the way violence is frequently framed off-screen or in fragmented visual language. A door left ajar, a reaction shot rather than the act itself, which denies the audience the gratification of spectacle and instead redirects attention toward aftermath and implication. This approach aligns with the broader moral stance of the series, suggesting that the real danger lies not in violence as an event, but in violence as a process normalized through repetition and attention. Compared to later crime dramas that emphasize forensic mastery or charismatic antagonists, The Streets of San Francisco feels almost underscrutoggle intentionally restrained, its tension emerging from uncertainty rather than revelation. As a viewer, one begins to feel implicated in the act of watching, forced to confront why certain scenes feel compelling even when nothing overtly dramatic occurs. This is where the concept of thrill becomes especially complex, because the series subtly questions whether the desire for narrative resolution mirrors the criminal desire for dominance or recognition. From a personal perspective, revisiting the series today evokes a sense of unease that feels remarkably contemporary, especially in an era saturated with true crime media, where the line between analysis and admiration is often blurred. The show seems almost prescient in its refusal to mythologize its criminals, portraying them instead as fragmented individuals operating within systems that both constrain and enable them. Stone himself is not immune to this tension, as his calm demeanor occasionally masks a deeper awareness of how easily order can be mistaken for justice, and how procedure can become ritual if not constantly interrogated. The city itself functions as more than a backdrop, its geography shaping pursuit, delay, and coincidence, reinforcing the idea that crime is inseparable from environment. Unlike shows that frame cities as hostile labyrinths, San Francisco here feels indifferent rather than antagonistic, a neutral space where human impulses play out without moral commentary. This neutrality is perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the series, because it refuses to reassure the viewer that violence is exceptional or aberrant. Instead, it suggests that thrill arises when ordinary structures are briefly bent, and that the true challenge for law enforcement is not merely stopping acts, but resisting the narratives that give those acts meaning. In this sense, The Thrill Killers becomes less about murder and more about interpretation, about who controls the story after harm has occurred. The enduring power of The Streets of San Francisco lies in this ethical restraint, its quiet refusal to reward excess, and its insistence that attention itself is never neutral.